What's up, Unlocking Your Inner Strength listeners? How would you like to know how to set your environments up so they're peak productivity environments? Most people have no clue how to do this. Well, I have good news for you. I've put together a special report showing you how to do this. Normally, it's $45, but since you're a loyal listener to the show, you can get it for only $10 at unlockingyourinnerstrength.com/time.
You're listening to The Inner Strength Show. If you want to step into your greatness, you've come to the right place. Here is your host, the human strength expert, Kyle Newell.
Hey everybody, it's Kyle from unlockingyourinnerstrength.com and newellstrength.com once again. Back with episode number 56. We're going to be going over more MindMap principles today to pick up on last episode. So if you haven't listened to that episode, I would definitely listen to that one first, episode number 55, to kind of get a primer on this stuff because it builds upon itself. And thank you for tuning in today if you're listening as well. And don't forget, I always ask, if you can, share this with a friend. Send them the link. That helps me out a lot, and it's going to help somebody else out as well. A friend in need, okay? In 2014, oddly enough, right after, literally a week after, I think it was within the week that I learned MindMap. I went to the first workshop with Dax here in New Jersey. I was playing basketball once again in a men's league, game 3 of the season. Was playing really well up to that point. Devin actually wanted to come to that game, so she came to the game. 3 minutes into the game, somebody threw me a pass that was high. I jumped. Bam. Right knee exploded, just like my left knee did, 2 years prior. And, it was crazy because I suffered the identical devastating injury, but it was okay. Now, the point of this is not the injury. The point of this is the timing. So at that point, right, I had just come off competing in 2 bodybuilding shows for the first time in 6 years. Physically looking, it was the best I thought I had ever looked. I was ripped. I'm still, I was still using my testosterone, whatnot. Now that fall, Devin said, okay, it's time. I want to get pregnant. So that meant I had to come off the testosterone. So I came off of that. Still working out, but I had to go also transition from looking like a bodybuilder to looking like, my normal body type. And even though I have all this coaching knowledge and all that, I had to do a ton of work with my therapist leading up to the shows and after the shows. And I still fell into a hole of, having body image issues. And, so that's something I go through as well. Okay. Or I did go through. And that's where I'm going with this. So I went from looking like the Zeus in my mind to looking like a roly-poly, soft, unmuscular person. Because when I ripped up the knee, I said, you know what? Until I can drive, I'm not going to the gym. I'm just going to work on my mindset even more. So I was not working out for about 5 weeks. We went away for the weekend, Devin and I, with another couple. And when we were getting ready for dinner one night, I was getting dressed. Devin looked at me and said, "This is the most attractive that you've ever been to me." I said, "What?" She said, "Because you're relaxed. You can go out and have a burger and a beer with me without having to weigh everything and measure everything." And she said, "I really enjoy this." And that was the one phrase, the moment in time when a real change or transformation happened in an instant, just like Tony Robbins says. Transformation will happen in a split second. The process might seem like it's long, but you just haven't made up your mind yet. Well, anyway, that stuck with me. And then I started applying mind mapping to that. I said, why did that have such an impact on me? Well, I started to develop my definition of what health is. The brain is a heat-seeking missile. Okay, it loves prediction and response patterns. It's a pattern recognition machine. Now, in order for the brain to move forward, to attain what it wants to attain, it needs to have clarity. And a big part of that, what we're going to start with the mind map today, is definitions. So if you are like most people, luckily you're not because you're listening to this, you may go through your whole life without ever actually having to think of definitions. of what health, wealth, success, happiness, all these things mean to you. Focusing on health, the default for everybody is lose weight, get lean. Well, that's not always the best thing. When I was ripped for bodybuilding shows, my energy was terrible, my mindset was struggling, productivity was way down. So all these things, okay? So then I developed my definition of health, which is being strong, having a sharp mindset, having a positive mental attitude, being pain-free, having good stamina, and being happy. So nowhere on my definition list do you see a weight, how much I weigh. It's got nothing to do with it. So when that creeps back in or tries to, I say, wait a minute, that's not on my definition. So you see how having definitions of these things can provide you a lot of clarity. If the brain doesn't have clarity, it can't move forward. You're just going to kind of go after what other people want you to go after. Which brings me to the purpose of a goal. I'm going to let you think for a second. What is the purpose of any goal? The purpose of a goal is to achieve more happiness. That is it. And it's very powerful to have that in your toolbox now, because if the path to the goal is making you miserable, the goal is not correct, or you're taking the wrong path to get there. Now think about it. If we set a goal, we're really talking about systems and habits to achieve that goal. Remember last week I talked about how the brain is built for survival. That a brain will not form habit of any sort around things that it does not find pleasurable. Brings me to willpower. Most people set a goal and say, I'm just going to grunt and bear and use all the willpower I got to get to this. Now, there is a certain way to use willpower, which maybe I'll talk about today if we have time. But willpower is doing shit you don't want to do. So the brain will not form habit around willpower-based thought. Think about it from a survival perspective. Why would the brain form a habit around something that makes it unhappy? That does not make any sense from increasing our happiness and our joy, which again affects your hormones. So it's just this whole big trickle-down effect. Now, willpower, to explain the science behind that, that's based in your prefrontal cortex, okay? The human part of the brain. So if you kind of rub your forehead, it's right behind that. Now, that part of your brain runs off glucose. Intense thought, high-level brain activity is going to burn up that glucose rather quickly. And when that burns up, your willpower is gone. So you always wonder, you have all the intentions of starting a fitness routine, but after a long day's work, it doesn't happen. You know, you have all the intentions. So you don't have a willpower problem. Okay, you have a threat problem. Using the wrong approach that people have taught you, okay, via willpower to try to get to where you want to get to. What's up, Unlocking Your Inner Strength listeners? How would you like to know how to set your environments up so they're peak productivity environments? Most people have no clue how to do this. Well, I have good news for you. I've put together a special report showing you how to do this. Normally, it's $45, but since you're a loyal listener to the show, you can get it for only $10 at unlockingyourinnerstrength.com/time. Once willpower is used up, and it doesn't matter what it's used up on, you can forget about following through with your plan, which if we're trying to form habit, you want to take willpower out of it. So with exercise, what that means basically is, first of all, you have to find something you enjoy, because you're not going to stick with it if you don't enjoy it. If you can't stick with it, because repetition is a big part of habit formation, then you cannot form a habit around it. Secondly, I'm a big believer of doing it first thing in the morning. If you go first thing in the morning, willpower doesn't really come into the equation in terms of competing for other resources in your day. You go first thing in the morning, make that a routine. Willpower is not part of that equation. So why am I so hell-bent on why did I think MindMap was going to be so good for the physical body? You cannot separate mind, body, and spirit. I've talked a lot in the past about goal setting and visualization, the power of the brain. But let's talk about how the brain and nervous system affect hormones. Now, your hormones are going to directly be the sole factor with how you look and what your body composition is, how much you weigh, what's your body fat, how much muscle can you put on. In a normal functioning metabolism or human being, all the hormones are it's a symphony. You can't really separate one from the other. They all have their roles and they all kind of play off each other. But each cell in the body, okay, so picture a nice symmetrical circle. That's a cell. They all have receptors on them, multiple receptors, like little parking spots. And typically, different hormones have a reserved parking spot on each cell multiple times. And they kind of, do their thing. Now, in a stressed cell or somebody that's chronically stressed, what happens is the two main stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, compete for the same compounds, but they take precedence and they pretty much take up most of the parking spots, meaning thyroid isn't going to function correctly. Growth hormone is going to be lower. Testosterone is going to be lower. All these things that are going to affect us. So your stress level and things of that nature are going to directly impact the hormones. Now, let me talk a little bit as well about cortisol. Cortisol, okay, would be considered catabolic, meaning it breaks down, especially when it's elevated chronically. Think of cortisone shots. If you're getting them repeatedly, don't. It's going to break the tissue down eventually where you're getting the injections. Now, cortisol and testosterone use the same raw materials to be built. There's something called pregnenolone steel. So stealing the pregnenolone, that's what cortisol will do in somebody that's chronically stressed. Cortisol is going to be high then, and testosterone is going to be low. So with hormones, you have to understand that there's three king hormones that regulate everything else. Again, it's all a symphony, but very, very hard to separate. You have insulin, cortisol, and adrenaline. Insulin, cortisol, and estrogen. Adrenaline is kind of one and the same. It's not the same, but it does similar things as cortisol. So to repeat, you have the three hormones, insulin, cortisol, and estrogen. So if you have low testosterone or thyroid function, usually we're going to look at an issue with cortisol. Okay. And out of those hormones, insulin is the one that you're largely in control of because that's to a big degree dictated by what you put in your mouth, what you're eating on a day-to-day basis. If you've ever seen somebody that's going on, let's say, artificial stress, and what I mean by that is, let's say, prednisone, catabolic steroid, glucocorticoid, as my friend Dr. Dave tells me, what happens is those people balloon up very fast. They put on a ton of fat. We've altered the internal hormones, which will affect things like omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. Again, further goes back to the point that I always make. It's not about calories in versus calories out. At a very basic level, you have to factor that in. But after that, it's your hormones that are going to dictate what's going on, where the hormones going, how we're recovering, how much muscle we're building, how much fat are we losing. Okay. I just had a friend and client I worked out with this morning. He's really lean. He went on vacation. He was 8.6% body fat, which is really good. And that's with the biosignature method, which is really intense. 12 sites, corresponds with different blood markers. And I said, man, go chill out. You'll be fine. Don't worry about dieting or working out. And he went away, came back before our leg workout this morning. I did a measurement. He dropped 0.6% body fat, which is huge when you're already that lean. Didn't work out, didn't diet, but he got a lot more sleep. He got to relax. You have to be in your parasympathetic nervous system to rest, digest, and relax. Many times when people go on vacation, they're eating more than they normally do, drinking more than they normally do, and they come back and they look better almost all the time. A lot of times their weight is down and their pants got a little loose. So that's a real life example. That's probably happened to you. But until you get your stress level under control, locate the threat, and then come up with a strategy, which I'll do in a couple weeks with how to come up with a strategy. I'll give you some real life examples with those threats in your life. Then again, we can't form habit, and especially around the good things that are going to help us in life. So the mind is going to dictate all of this. It's always processing, always processing. I want to cut it right there today because I know that's a lot of stuff I just went over. But again, it's just building upon itself with mind mapping. And I'm fascinated by this stuff. I'm always learning new stuff with it. Really cool stuff. So that's MindMap, and a little bit to do with hormones. But realize it's always affecting you, and your mind is going to be the king of your life, so to speak, or queen. So if you like today's episode, please remember to share it with a friend if you think it can help them. If you haven't already done so, please leave a review on iTunes. It only takes 1 minute. And I can see when those reviews come in, and I greatly appreciate if you take the time to do that. And once again, if you want to apply for one of the remaining spots of the fall mastermind that's going to start in October that I'm running, you can go to unlockingyourinnerstrength.com/mastermind, and you can apply there. It's application only, 5 spots. It's a 90-day sprint mastermind. It's only 3 months. And whatever we set, when I help you come up with your 90-day outcome and 60-day benchmark, 30-day benchmark, I'm going to guarantee that you will achieve that 90-day outcome if you follow the stuff that I'm going to teach you. And I will hold you accountable. I'm pretty good at that. That's it for today. Be back next week. Until then, win the week.
You've been listening to The Inner Strength Show. If you enjoyed the show, remember to subscribe, rate, and review us in iTunes.